Everyone, it's Nat Walsh. Today I am over on the TLC YouTube channel and I'm going to play with Gazing Gabe, and this sentiment is from this stamp set, Unicorn Happiness. Now I've got a printed out version, I've got a digital thing, so the sentiment is going to be, it's going to match your stamp set. Okay, Gazing Gabe is a digital. I've pulled out my colour wheel here to figure out some colours to have a play with. We're going to use some triad colours. So we've got the yellow, the orange, red, orange, yellow. I don't know. It's a yellow, orange. We've got here YR68, Y17 and Y15. And I'm just going through and picking out where he's going to be the darkest. So where his feathers sort of overlap underneath the other feathers, it's going to be darker because something is sitting on top of something else. The back of his little beak, it's going to be darker. Well, I think it's going to be darker, so that's what I went with. I am working down from darkest down to lightest, and I usually go back through again, because you really, with the Copics, you really should put a couple of layers on to get the true color. But I also play with that, and if I want a softer color, I won't go through them all over again, or I might add a little bit extra of the dark color right in my darkest areas, just to give it that little bit of extra dimension. So you can sort of play around with these colors, you know, just because they say that you should go over it a couple of times. You can also break those rules because they're your pens once you bought them. So, you know, it doesn't matter. I digress. Zoomed in a little bit now, so hopefully you can see it. My hands do get in the way and I try not to, but it's a fact of life that it's going to be a little bit in the way. Again, working through the darkest down to the lightest, and then going back through and sort of touching up and playing with the images. So yeah, I use this. If you're always stuck with color schemes, pull out your color wheel if you've got one. If you don't, go and find one, because it's such a great tool. So there's lots of information on the color wheel, and it's all my color wheel. Everything's written on there about triad colors, complementary colors. You can just, all the hard work's done for you. So you just pick one color and then it will go through and tell you other colors that will work well with it. So it makes it really, really easy. So we've got some BG09, BG07, BG05 and BG02. Now this is going to get a little bit messy and squiggly because he's an owl, and I needed to put some texture in his body. So I'm doing a really rough lines, as you can just see there. Working down through my colors and just adding more lines and more dimension and slowly filling that in. But I'm not particularly worried about smoothing it out. It just doesn't matter because he's a little owl, so he gets to have the texture in his body. Now, as I said, the sentiment that we're going to use today is from the Unicorn Happiness stamp set. Now, that stamp set, the sentiment actually has you're a twinkling star, rare find, I think. Hang on one sec. Yep, just ran over and got my book. Yeah, so it's you're a twinkling star, rare find. Now, if you had the polymer stamp, obviously you can mask off and just use the words that I've used. So that's all the handy, but because it's a digital image for me, and I am part of being part of their design team, I have got access to some of these. But as I said, these images are all at the same sizing that you guys would receive them. So I have to get in and have a play with the unicorn happiness because it's so cute. We're still just going through with our blues here, our blue greens. It looks very blue on screen, but it's a little bit more blue-green in real life. So you just have to trust me with that. And hopefully when you get over to the photos, you will be able to see, you will see that it is a little bit more blue-green. So I thought the sentiment was really fitting because, you know, he's a little bit of a rare find. That's the beauty of creative license, isn't it? This is my little stamp and I'm going to colour him the way I want to colour him. I mean, I don't know too many owls that actually have a little heart on his bottom of his belly, but you know, he's pretty cute. I really, really like him. So we're just going through, again, I'm sort of giving it little flicks. I'm colouring this like I would colour hair. So little flicks, and I'm not worried about having it all blended in together nice and smooth, because you want to give stamps that look of realness. Although, you know, he's got a flower in his hair, so he's pretty stinking cute, but you know, to give that little bit of look of realness, you need to add a little bit of texture and a little bit of dimension to him. So that's where we're just going through with the darkest color now and just going over some of those dark spots that I may have lost. So we've got RV69, RV17, RV14 and R32. It's a pretty strong little color, so we're not going to have too much of this. I'm just going to basically color parts of his eyes and these little bits on his wings. I am going to bring in yet another color, which I generally if I bring in another color, I like to have him obviously in more than one place. So we're going to color in with sort of a green. Obviously we've got some leaves there, so I couldn't bring myself to color anything else, color the leaves anything else, put it that way. So we've got the green for the leaves, and then I'm going to come back through and on his tummy there we're going to do a little bit of green on either side. So we've got like 3 spots, even though it's like, you know, we've got the leaves and we've got those 2 spots, you know. The heart is going to be, because he's only tiny, we're just going to use a little bit of the 2 darkest colors to color him in. Get rid of those. So we've got some cool grays. We've got some C5, C3 and C1. And it is going to be dark. I do get overzealous, I think, with my... I'd lied, didn't I? Oh, no, that's right. It's early in the morning because, you know, I've been trying to do this voiceover from last night. So the centre bits, as you can see there, that are totally, completely laid. We're going to colour them sort of whitish to a cool grey. The green, because that's right, because I didn't want it to overtake, the green is going to be his claws. That's what I coloured green. Here we go. So we've got G94, G24. So we've got G94, G24 and G82. And I just used a chart and picked out colours that would go well. Actually, I used the Sandy Allnock hex chart, so to pick out colours that will go well. So there'll be more photos on the blog, I think, of this little dude, and there he is all done. So I've trimmed down my big panel, and we're going to use this Spellbinders Standard Circles Small. Now this is old as the sun. I think this is one of the first things that I bought many years ago. So I'm assuming Spellbinders probably still would have it. We've got out our Fiskars mat. We're going to use some Victorian velvet. We're not going to use that colour, that green. I think it was peeled paint in the end. As soon as I put it down, I went, yeah, no. Shabby Shutters and a little bit of Stormy Sky. But we'll bring in some more colours. So I was hoping this would go well. Basically, that's what the fingers crossed was talking about. That's half the fun, isn't it? Let's just see what happens, and let's just see how this comes out. A little bit more Victorian velvet, and I will actually bring in some peacock feathers but that's going to be a little bit later on. There we go. Not as late as I thought, because once I put it with my dude, I'm like, he doesn't have any of the blue-green. It just doesn't work. So we're going to mat this down. I had a picture in my head of how this card was going to go. It did evolve a little bit, and I ummed and ahed about redoing this sentiment and putting a white panel over it. The rest of that black will come off. Get rid of my Fiskars mat because it's really, really great, but it's for blending and everything else, but it will grip the cardstock a little bit. So it makes it a lot easier if you can basically push everything off to the side if you need be. We're going to come back in with the same C's that we've used previously, C5, C3 and C1, and just ground him. I like my little critters to be grounded. The rest of that black will be cut off very, very shortly. I do end up raising this little guy up a fair bit. Now, I've trimmed a lot off because you don't need to see me raising it up and everything else. Now, I will totally admit that I got this idea from the wonderful Christine Warner, but I'm going to use Copics just to have a couple of lines, and it's just rough. It's not measured or anything else, because this whole little dude with the background, the way he is, it's got that rustic sort of look. So I wasn't going for all perfection here. I just wanted to get some of his colours on there. We're going to make this a little banner. We're going to trim down the middle and then go from the corners into that middle slot. I just find it gives me a great little banner. I'm going to play around a bit more. So once this black panel is trimmed down and I start putting the foam, I end up raising the owl up a fair bit. The banner is also raised up a little bit on foam mount, but honestly the parts of the owl are raised up by about 3. So you're not going to see that because I was trying to save you time, because you know it's just not going to work. So we've got one more color coming through because I just wanted a little bit of the orange. So we've got Spice Marmalade there. Oh, that's better. Got a little bit of foam tape, just trying to get him centered there. And there we go. So this is what our little card is going to look like. I'm going to play around with this a little bit. So yeah, this is my very first video for TLC. I am super excited and I can't wait to get some more of the stamp sets. I have placed my order, but because I'm in Australia, it does travel a fair way. So stay tuned for a bit more. We now got a little bit of not Winchester. I did say it was early in the morning here, didn't I? Because that's the only time that I can actually make sure that my house is all quiet. Even then, sometimes I completely fail. It is not Winchester, it is Stardust Stickles. Now, this is just some sequins in from my stash because he just needed a little something something. So we're going to put an uneven amount because that way it's just a little bit more pleasing to the eye. And I'm going to adhere those down with a little bit of multi-matte medium. This little one, even when I went to put him down the first time, there must be a little bit of coating on him because my crystal katana is pretty darn good, but he was being very stubborn. So that's my card. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you like and subscribe, hit the little bell to get notified, and I will catch you next time on the TLC YouTube channel. See ya.